The bullet missed her head by 3 inches. Eliza Hart hit the ground hard, Texas dust filling her mouth as the second shot exploded overhead. She'd stepped off the stagecoach exactly 90 seconds ago. Her carefully packed trunks lay scattered in the dirt. Her Boston gloves were already ruined. And somewhere in the chaos of shouting men and panicked horses, a pair of cold gray eyes watched her scramble for cover. Not helping, just watching. This wasn't the teaching position she'd been promised. This was a mistake, possibly a fatal one. If you want to see how a Boston school teacher survives the wildest ranch in Texas, stay until the end, hit that like button, and comment what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. The stagecoach had smelled like sweat, leather, and broken promises for the last 48 hours. Eliza had tried breathing through her mouth somewhere around hour 12, but that just made her taste the dust instead of smelling it. By the time the driver shouted, "Whoa!" and the wheels finally stopped turning, she'd mentally composed and discarded 17 different letters of resignation. She hadn't sent any of them, of course. She was here now. Might as well see it through. The door swung open, and Texas heat poured in like something physical. It hit her face, her chest, her carefully buttoned collar. March in Boston meant crocuses and cool mornings. March in Texas apparently meant standing inside a baker's oven. "End of the line, miss." The driver's face appeared in the doorway, weathered as old boot leather. "Hale Ranch. Though I gotta say, you sure you got the right place?" Eliza gathered her skirts, dark blue traveling wool, already a terrible choice, and accepted his hand down. "Quite sure, thank you. Just seems odd is all. They don't usually hire—" He caught himself. "Well, none of my business." She knew what he'd almost said. They don't usually hire women. Or perhaps they don't usually hire women who look like you. Eliza had heard variations of both her entire life. Too refined for rough work. Too proper for frontier life. Too much her mother's daughter to do anything truly worthwhile. Well, they were about to find out. The ranch spread before her in shades of brown and gold, buildings that looked functional rather than beautiful, fences that needed mending, land that rolled away toward distant hills like an ocean frozen mid-wave. Nothing like the neat brick rows of Boston. Nothing like anything she'd ever seen. She was mentally cataloging the buildings, main house, barn, what looked like a bunkhouse, when the first shot cracked across the morning. Eliza didn't think. She dropped, hitting the ground with an impact that knocked the air from her lungs. Her carpet bag flew one direction, her hat box another. Dust filled her mouth, her nose, her eyes. The second shot came before she could even process the first. And this time she felt it pass overhead, close enough that her brain screamed impossible thoughts about wind and bullets and how much 3 inches actually mattered. "Hold fire! Hold fire!" A man's voice, authoritative and furious. Eliza pressed her face into the dirt and thought very clearly. "I am going to die in Texas wearing my second-best dress." Boots hit the ground nearby, running, more shouting. The horses screamed and jerked against their harnesses, and the stagecoach driver was cursing steadily in a way that would have shocked her students back home. Probably should have shocked her too, but she was reasonably certain propriety went out the window when people started shooting at you. "Ma'am, you hit?" Different voice, younger, scared. Eliza lifted her head enough to see a boy, 16, maybe 17, crouched beside her. His face had gone white beneath its tan. I don't think so." Her voice came out steady. "Good. At least one part of her was handling this well." "Jesus, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't see the coach. We were just... Tommy, shut your mouth and get back to the bunkhouse." This voice cut through the chaos like a knife. Cold, controlled, completely devoid of sympathy. Eliza pushed herself up on her elbows. Her dress was ruined, her hat was God knew where, and her carefully arranged hair had come loose from its pins. She must look like she'd been dragged behind the stagecoach instead of riding in it. And standing 10 feet away, still holding a rifle, was the man with the cold voice. He was tall. Most men were compared to her, but something about the way he stood made him seem taller. Dark hair, dark clothes, and those eyes. Gray as a winter storm, fixed on her with an expression she couldn't quite read. Not concern, not quite indifference either. Something calculating, like he was adding up numbers and didn't much care for the sum. "You the new teacher?" he asked. Eliza got to her feet without help. Her legs shook, but she locked her knees and lifted her chin. I am. Eliza Hart. And you are? Cole Maddox, foreman. He lowered the rifle but didn't look particularly apologetic. Didn't know the coach was coming today. Clearly. She brushed at her skirt. It didn't help. Is it customary to shoot at visitors, Mr. Maddox? Or am I receiving special treatment? Something flickered across his face. Might have been amusement. Hard to tell. Target practice. Someone should have posted a lookout. Someone should have checked the schedule. Don't have much use for schedules out here. They stared at each other. Eliza had the distinct sense she was being evaluated and coming up short. She'd seen that look before, on the faces of school board members who'd decided she was too young, too female, too everything except what they actually needed. The difference was, those men had worn suits and sat behind desks. This one wore trail dust and looked like he could break her in half without much effort. Not that he would. Probably. Possibly. She really should have stayed in Boston. Mr. Hale's expecting you. Cole turned toward the main house. Best not keep him waiting. My bags? Tommy'll get them. He didn't look back. That is, if he hasn't run off to Mexico yet. The boy, Tommy, was indeed gathering her scattered luggage with shaking hands. Eliza caught his eye and tried for a reassuring smile. He looked like he might cry. Great. She'd been here 5 minutes and already traumatized someone. She followed Cole Maddox toward the house, acutely aware of how she must look. Like a disaster. Like someone who absolutely did not belong here. Like a Boston school teacher who'd made a terrible mistake. The main house was larger up close, 2 stories of weathered wood and practical architecture, a wide porch wrapped around the front, and the windows had actual glass, luxury she'd been told, this far from civilization. Cole took the porch steps 2 at a time. She followed more carefully, trying not to catch her skirt on any splinters. He knocked once, then opened the door without waiting for an answer. Got your teacher, boss. More or less intact. More or less. The voice from inside was warm, cultured. That's not a promising start, Cole. Had a little incident with the target practice. Eliza stepped through the door and into a room that looked almost familiar, furnished like a gentleman's study. Heavy desk, leather chairs, books on shelves. For half a second, she could pretend she was back in civilization. Then the man behind the desk stood, and the feeling evaporated. Victor Hale was handsome in the way certain men were when they had money and knew it. Late 40s, graying at the temples, wearing a suit that had definitely come from somewhere east of the Mississippi. He smiled at her like they were meeting at a dinner party instead of a ranch where people apparently shot at stagecoaches. Miss Hart, what a pleasure. He came around the desk with his hand extended. I hope the journey wasn't too difficult. She shook his hand, firm grip, soft palm. The journey was fine. The arrival was eventful. Ah, yes. His smile tightened. Cole, we discussed this. Discussed what? Cole had moved to lean against the wall, arms crossed, still holding that damned rifle. You said make sure the men stayed sharp. Can't do that without practice. Perhaps not directly in line with the main road. Perhaps someone could mention when we're expecting visitors. The temperature in the room dropped about 10 degrees. Eliza glanced between them. This wasn't just employee and employer. This was something else. Something with edges. Victor's smile never wavered. Miss Hart, please forgive the rough welcome. I assure you we're normally more civilized. Won't you sit? She sat, mostly because her legs were still shaking and she didn't want anyone to notice. I trust Mrs. Patterson explained the situation? Victor returned to his chair. Cole stayed by the wall, watching. The children? She said you needed someone to educate 2 orphans, Lily and Jake. Eliza folded her hands in her lap. Proper posture, even in crisis. Her mother would be proud. Ages 8 and 10, recently lost their parents. Their father, yes. Mother died in childbirth with the youngest. Victor's expression shifted to something that might have been genuine sympathy. Tragic situation. Their father, Samuel Hart, no relation, I assume? Not that I'm aware of. He worked this ranch for 15 years. Good man. Honest. When the fever took him last month, Victor shook his head. Well, the children need stability, structure, education, all the things a frontier ranch struggles to provide. I understand.
though she wasn't sure she did entirely. Where are they now? Around, Victor waved vaguely. They're adjusting, not easy, losing your father. I imagine not. They're wild, Cole said flatly. Boy's got a temper. Girl barely talks.
Neither of them seen the inside of a schoolroom in their lives. Eliza looked at him. Then it's fortunate I'm here to remedy that. You think you can teach wild children to sit still and cipher? He said it like a challenge, like he expected her to fold. I think, she said carefully, that every child deserves an education, whether they're wild or tame. Prettily said. He didn't make it sound like a compliment. Let's see how you feel after a week. Cole. Victor's voice had steel under the polish. That's enough. Just being realistic, boss. You hired her. I'm just wondering how long before she runs back to Boston crying. Eliza felt her spine straighten. I don't cry, Mr. Maddox, and I don't run. Everyone runs eventually. He pushed off the wall. If you'll excuse me, I've got actual work to do. He was gone before Victor could respond, the door closing behind him with careful precision. Not a slam. Somehow, that made it worse. Eliza released a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. I apologize for Cole. Victor rubbed his temple. He's difficult. He shot at me. Technically, Tommy shot at you. Cole was just supervising poorly. Victor's smile was wry. Not that it makes much difference to you, I imagine. Not particularly. The truth is, Miss Hart, Cole Maddox is the best foreman I've ever had. Keeps the men in line, the ranch running, the accounts balanced. He's worth his weight in gold. Victor paused. He is also rough, crude, and completely lacking in social graces. I noticed. The thing is, Victor stood, moved to the window. The children adore him. Samuel trusted him completely. If anyone can keep them safe out here, it's Cole. Eliza heard what he wasn't saying. You're here to teach them books. He's here to teach them survival. I see. Do you? Victor turned. Because I need you to understand something. This isn't Boston. This isn't even Austin. Out here, knowing your letters might make you educated, but knowing how to track a snake before it bites you is what keeps you alive. Then perhaps, Eliza said quietly, the children need both. Victor studied her. Then, slowly, he smiled. Perhaps they do. Can I show you to your quarters? Please. He led her upstairs to a room that was small but clean, bed, dresser, washstand, window, looking out over the corrals. Her trunks were already there, courtesy of the traumatized Tommy. Dinner's at 6, Victor said from the doorway. We're informal, but try to be prompt. The children will be there, and I'd like you to meet them properly. Of course. He left her alone with her dusty dress and scattered thoughts. Eliza moved to the window. Below, she could see men working, mending fence, moving horses, doing the 1,000 tasks that kept a ranch running. And there, in the middle corral, was Cole Maddox. He was working with a horse, a young bay that clearly didn't want to be worked. It reared, struck out. Cole moved aside without seeming to hurry, his hand steady on the lead rope. Patient. Controlled. Not the same man who'd watched her crawl in the dirt with those cold eyes. She watched him gentle the horse with quiet words she couldn't hear from this distance. Watched the animal's fear slowly settle into something like trust. That's what she was supposed to do, wasn't it? Gentle wild things. Make them trust. Teach them to be something they weren't. Eliza turned away from the window and started unpacking. Dinner was an exercise in controlled chaos. The dining room was smaller than the study, dominated by a long table that looked handmade. Sturdy, practical, like everything else here. Victor sat at the head. Eliza was placed to his right. And at the far end, hunched over their plates like they might need to defend them, were the children. Jake saw her first. He was 10, all elbows and suspicion, with his father's dark hair and eyes that tracked her like she might be dangerous. Who's she? Mind your manners, Victor's tone was mild. This is Miss Hart, your new teacher. Don't need a teacher, Jake muttered. We'll discuss what you need later. Victor looked at the girl. Lily, say hello. Lily was 8, small for her age, with hair the color of wheat and eyes that looked too old for her face. She stared at Eliza without speaking. Eliza had taught difficult children before. Angry children, grieving children. She knew the look. "Hello," she said simply.
"I'm sorry about your father." Jake's fork clattered against his plate. "You didn't know him." "No, but I know what it's like to lose someone you love." "Your pa die?" "My mother, when I was 12. Something shifted in Jake's face. Not warmth, exactly, but maybe a crack in the wall. Lily still hadn't spoken. The door opened and Cole Maddox walked in.
He'd cleaned up, different shirt, hair damp like he'd dunked his head in the water trough, but he still moved like violence was always an option. "You're late," Victor said. "Work doesn't stop for dinner." Cole took the seat directly across from Eliza. His eyes met hers briefly, then dismissed her. "Evening, Jake. Lily." "Cole." Jake's whole face changed. "Did you see what I did with the lasso today? Got it around the post first try." "Second try," Cole said, "but not bad. Will you show me the trick with the double loop?" "After you finish your vegetables." Jake looked at his plate like the carrots had personally offended him, but he started eating. Lily hadn't moved. She was watching Cole with an intensity that made Eliza's chest hurt. "Lilybug," Cole said quietly, "you eat today?" The little girl shook her head. "Not hungry?" Another head shake. "That's okay, but try a bite, for me." Lily picked up her fork, took the smallest possible bite of potato. Cole nodded like she'd just scaled a mountain. Eliza felt something twist in her stomach. This rough, cold man who'd watched her scramble in the dirt, he was gentle with these children, patient, like they were something precious. It didn't fit. People were supposed to make sense. They were supposed to be one thing or another. Cole Maddox was apparently both. "Miss Hart was just telling us about her mother," Victor said into the silence. "Lost her young, didn't you?" Eliza wished he'd chosen literally any other topic. "Yes, consumption." "Hard thing," Cole said. He wasn't looking at her. "Losing a parent. It was a long time ago. Doesn't make it easier." She couldn't argue with that. Dinner continued in fits and starts. Victor made conversation about the ranch, the weather, the price of cattle. Jake asked Cole 17 questions about horses, ropes, and whether you could really lasso a running coyote. Lily ate 3 bites and spent the rest of the meal drawing patterns in her mashed potatoes. And Eliza sat in the middle of it all, feeling like she was watching a play where everyone knew their lines except her. "School starts tomorrow," Victor announced as the plates were cleared. 8 o'clock sharp. Miss Hart will be using the old office building. We've set it up with desks and supplies." "I'm not going," Jake said immediately. "Yes, you are." "Can't make me." "Oh, Jacob Samuel Hart. Pa wouldn't make me." The table went silent. Victor's face tightened. Cole set down his coffee cup with deliberate care. "Your pa," Cole said quietly, "wanted you educated. Told me so himself." "He did not." "He did. Said he didn't want you growing up ignorant like he did." Cole's gray eyes were steady on the boy. "Said he wanted better for you." Jake's face crumpled. For a second, Eliza thought he might cry. Then he shoved back from the table and ran. The door slammed. In the silence that followed, Lily slipped from her chair and disappeared after her brother like smoke. "Well," Victor said heavily, "that went well." "I'll talk to him." Cole stood. "Let them be for tonight." Victor looked at Eliza. "I apologize, Miss Hart. They're not usually, actually, that's a lie. They're exactly this difficult every single day." "They're grieving," Eliza said. "They're wild," Victor countered, "and they're getting worse. This is exactly why I hired you." Cole made a sound that might have been disagreement. Victor shot him a look. "Something to say, Cole?" "Nope." But he didn't sit back down. "If we're done here, I've got night rounds." "We're done." Cole left without looking at Eliza again. She heard his boots on the porch, then silence. Victor poured himself more coffee. "You're wondering what you've gotten yourself into." "Little bit," Eliza admitted. "Those children have been running wild since their father died. Fighting, stealing. Yesterday, Jake put a snake in the bunkhouse." Victor rubbed his face. "I've tried discipline, structure. Nothing works. They need time. They need guidance, education, civilization." He looked at her. "That's what you're here for, Miss Hart. To give them what this place can't." Eliza thought about Cole's hands, steady on that horse. about the way Lily had eaten for him when she wouldn't eat for anyone else. With respect, Mr. Hale, I'm not sure civilization is what they need right now. Then what would you suggest? She didn't have an answer, not yet. That night, Eliza lay in her narrow bed and listened to Texas. It was louder than she'd expected. Wind against the house, animals calling in the distance, men's voices from the bunkhouse carrying on the night air. Different from Boston's sounds. Different from anything she knew. She thought about her mother's face the day she'd announced this plan. The disappointment. The certainty that Eliza was making a mistake. Maybe she was. But she was here now. And tomorrow she'd start trying to teach two wild children who didn't want to be taught, assuming they showed up at all. Checked. They didn't. Eliza waited in the converted office building from 8 until 9. She'd arranged the desks just so, laid out slates and chalk, even found a map of the United States to hang on the wall. At 9:30, she went looking for her students. She found Jake in the barn mucking stalls with a viciousness that suggested he was imagining her face in the manure. School started an hour ago, she said. Don't care. Mr. Hale said, Mr. Hale ain't my pa. Jake threw the pitchfork down. And you ain't my ma, so you can both go straight to... Language, Eliza said sharply, then softer. Where's Lily? How should I know? I'm not her keeper. But his eyes slid to the left, toward the back of the barn. Tell. Eliza found Lily in an empty stall, sitting in the straw with a half-wild barn cat that looked like it might take her hand off at any moment. The girl was humming tunelessly, running her small fingers through the cat's matted fur. Hello, Eliza said quietly. Lily didn't look up. That's a pretty cat. What's its name? Silence. I had a cat once, in Boston. Called him Thief because he stole food off the counter. Eliza stayed in the doorway, not crowding. Do you like cats? Lily's humming stopped. She pressed her face against the cat's fur. You don't have to come to school today, Eliza said. But tomorrow, I hope you'll visit. I think you'd like the books I brought. They have pictures. Nothing. Eliza was turning to leave when Lily spoke, so quietly she almost missed it. Pa liked books. Did he? Read to us, every night. Lily's voice was rough, like she didn't use it much. Stories about knights and dragons. I have some of those. Would you like to hear one? Lily looked up. Her eyes were red-rimmed but dry. Tomorrow? Tomorrow, Eliza promised. It wasn't much, but it was something. She left the barn and nearly collided with Cole Maddox. They skip out, he asked. They're adjusting. That's a fancy way of saying they told you to go to hell. Jake was more colorful. Lily just ignored me. Eliza brushed straw off her skirt. But we made progress. Progress? He said it like it was a foreign word. You've been here one day and you think you made progress. I think, Eliza said evenly, that grief takes time. And these children have earned the right to be difficult. They've earned the right to be safe, fed, sheltered. Cole's voice was flat. Everything else is luxury. Education isn't luxury. Out here it is. Out here, knowing your letters won't save you when a horse throws you, won't keep you alive when a storm hits. So what would you have me teach them? How to shoot, track, survive? Wouldn't hurt. They stared at each other. Eliza had the distinct feeling they were having two different conversations. The children like you, she said finally. Something flickered in his expression. So maybe instead of fighting me, you could help me. Show them that education and survival aren't enemies. They're not friends either. They could be. Cole studied her for a long moment. Then, you really believe that? That you can gentle them like they're wild horses? Teach them to be proper and educated and civilized? I believe, Eliza said, that they deserve the chance to choose who they want to be, not who we decide they should be. For just a second, something unguarded crossed his face, something that looked almost like pain. Then it was gone, shuttered behind those cold gray eyes. Good luck with that, teacher. He stepped past her. You're going to need it. Eliza watched him walk away, tall and straight and utterly alone. She was starting to realize that everything here was more complicated than she'd been told. The children weren't just wild. Victor Hale wasn't just a generous employer, and Cole Maddox wasn't just a rough foreman. They were all grieving something, fighting something, protecting something. She just had to figure out what, and maybe, just maybe, figure out how to help without getting herself shot in the process. That night, after another silent dinner where Lily ate 4 bites and Jake glowered, Eliza sat at her small desk and started writing. Not a letter home, not a resignation, a lesson plan. If she couldn't make them come to school, she'd bring school to them. Teach them where they were comfortable, on their terms. It wasn't proper pedagogy. It probably violated 17 educational principles, but proper hadn't worked yet. Maybe it was time to try something else. Outside her window, she could see Cole making his rounds, checking the horses, the fences, the men. Always working, always watching. She wondered what he was protecting them from, and whether he'd ever let anyone protect him. The first lesson happened in the chicken coop. Eliza found Jake there at dawn, collecting eggs with the kind of anger that made her worry for the chickens. He saw her coming and his face closed up tight. "If you're here to drag me to that schoolroom, I'm here to learn how to collect eggs without getting pecked." She stepped into the coop, immediately regretting it as the smell hit her. "You could teach me." Jake stared. "You're joking." "Do I look like I'm joking?" She gestured at the nearest hen, a mean-looking thing with beady eyes. "That one looks particularly vicious. That's Bertha. She's hateful." But something in Jake's voice had shifted, almost amused. "You really don't know how to get eggs?" In Boston, eggs came from the market, already in baskets. He snorted, actually snorted. Then, grudgingly, "You gotta approach from the side, not the front. They don't like being surprised." Eliza followed his instructions. Bertha still pecked her, hard enough to leave a mark, but she managed to retrieve 2 eggs without dropping them. "Not terrible," Jake admitted, "for a city person." High praise. Eliza examined her reddening knuckles. "Now, want to know how many eggs we just collected in mathematical terms?" "That's sneaky." "That's teaching," she smiled. "You show me ranch work, I'll show you numbers. Fair trade?" Jake considered this. She could see him working through it, looking for the trap. "1 week," he said finally. "Trial period. You can't handle the work. Deal's off." "Agreed." They shook on it, his hand small and calloused in hers. It wasn't proper education. It wasn't even close to what she'd planned. But it was something. Lily was harder. The girl drifted through the ranch like a ghost, appearing and disappearing without sound. Eliza would glimpse her in the barn, the garden, once on the roof of the bunkhouse, though nobody could explain how she'd gotten up there. But she never spoke, never stayed when Eliza approached. On the 3rd day, Eliza changed tactics. She sat in the barn with a book and simply started reading aloud. She didn't look for Lily, didn't call to her, just read. The knight rode through the dark forest, his armor shining even in the shadows. She felt rather than saw Lily slip into the stall behind her. The girl's breathing was so quiet Eliza might have imagined it. She kept reading. By the 4th day, Lily sat close enough that Eliza could have touched her. By the 5th, the girl was leaning against her shoulder, small and warm and desperately fragile. Eliza still didn't push, just read about knights and dragons and impossible quests. On the 6th day, when she finished a chapter, Lily whispered, "What happens next?" "I don't know," Eliza said honestly. "I've never read this one before. We'll find out together." Lily nodded. Then, "Can we read in the schoolroom tomorrow? It's warmer." Victory tasted like straw dust and hope. The next morning, both children showed up at 8 o'clock sharp. Jake slouched in his chair like he was being tortured. Lily sat perfectly still, hands folded, eyes huge. "Right," Eliza said. "New rules. We do ranch work in the morning, lessons in the afternoon, and I teach you what you need to know, not what some book says you should learn." "What's the difference?" Jake asked suspiciously. "The difference is you tell me what you want to understand, the world, numbers, why things work the way they do, and I'll help you figure it out." "I want to know why horses spook at nothing," Jake said immediately. "Excellent question. Let's start there." They spent the morning mucking stalls. Eliza ruined another dress and discovered muscles she didn't know she had, and the afternoon discussing animal behavior, fear responses, and the anatomy of a horse's eye. Jake was riveted. Even Lily paid attention, though she still wouldn't speak in front of her brother. It wasn't traditional. The school board back in Boston would have been horrified. But the children were learning, and more than that, they were present. engaged, almost happy. Cole watched from a distance, arms crossed, expression unreadable. He didn't interfere, didn't comment, just watched. Eliza found it deeply unnerving. 2 weeks in, she'd established something like a routine. Mornings on the ranch, learning everything from fence repair to water management. Afternoons in the schoolroom, translating those experiences into reading, writing, arithmetic. The children fought her less. Jake even smiled occasionally. Lily had started bringing her that murderous barn cat to lessons. Victor seemed pleased. "You've worked miracles, Miss Hart." "Hardly miracles, just different methods. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. I haven't seen them this settled since Samuel died." But settled felt like the wrong word. They were engaged, yes. Learning, yes. But something still felt fragile, like they were building on sand. She mentioned this to Cole one evening. She'd found him working late in the barn, mending tack by lamplight. He didn't look up when she approached. "They seem better," she said. "Do they?" "Jake's reading on his own now, Lily too. Good for them." Eliza watched his hands work the leather, steady, competent. "You don't approve." "Didn't say that." "You didn't have to." She leaned against the stall door. "You think I'm wasting time on books when I should be teaching them, what, survival?" Cole set down his tools, finally looked at her. "I think you're teaching them to want things they can't have." "Like what?" "Like a different life, a safe life. A life where knowing poetry matters more than knowing which plants are poisonous. Those aren't mutually exclusive. Out here they are." His voice was flat. "You give them hope for something better. What happens when better doesn't come? When they're stuck here, doing ranch work, living hard? That education going to comfort them then?" Eliza felt something cold settle in her stomach. "You're saying I'm being cruel. I'm saying you're being naive." He stood, and in the lamplight his face looked harsh. Older. "But you're from Boston. You wouldn't understand." "Try me." For a long moment she thought he wouldn't. Then, unexpectedly, "I had a teacher once. Little town in Oklahoma. She was like you. Thought education could save us. Taught me to read, write, cipher. Made me think I could be something more than my father's shadow." He picked up the bridle, examining his repair work. "What happened?" Eliza asked quietly. "Life happened. My father died. The ranch failed. And all those books didn't amount to a damn thing when I was 14 and hungry and sleeping in barns." His eyes met hers. "That teacher meant well, just like you, but good intentions don't fill your belly." Eliza thought about her own childhood. The years after her mother died, when her father had retreated into himself, and she'd raised herself on books and stubbornness. "Education didn't save you," she said slowly. "But it didn't hurt you either. Didn't it? Made me want things. Made me angry about what I'd lost." He hung the bridle on its peg. "Sometimes ignorance is kinder." "I don't believe that." "You don't have to, but you asked what I thought." He turned to leave, then paused. "The children trust you. Don't make them regret it." He left her standing in the lamplight, his words echoing. That night, Eliza couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about what Cole had said, about hope and cruelty, and whether teaching someone to dream was a kindness or a curse. She thought about Lily's small hand in hers as they read, Jake's excitement when he solved a problem, their laughter when they got something right. Was she setting them up for heartbreak, teaching them to want a world that would never want them back? Or was she giving them tools they'd need, whatever life they built? She didn't have answers, just doubts that felt heavier than they should. The next day brought trouble in a form she hadn't anticipated. She was teaching the children about water sources, how to read the land for springs, calculate well depth, understand irrigation, when a rider came in fast. Young, pale, speaking too quickly to understand. Cole appeared from nowhere, grabbed the boy's shoulder. "Slow down. What happened?" "It's Tommy. Out at the north fence line. Horse threw him into the creek. He's hurt bad, Cole. Real bad." Cole was moving before the sentence finished. "Get Doc Harris. Ride hard." He grabbed his own horse, a big gray that looked mean. "Where exactly?" The boy rattled off landmarks. Cole nodded, swung into the saddle. "I'm coming." Eliza said it without thinking. "No, you're not. If he's hurt, you'll need help. I need you to stay with the children." "The children," Jake said loudly, "can come too. We know first aid." Jake, Pa taught us. Remember? Jake's face was set, stubborn. You can't do everything yourself, Cole. Something passed between them. Some understanding Eliza wasn't part of. Then Cole cursed under his breath. Fine, but you do exactly what I say. No arguments. They rode hard. Eliza had never been comfortable on horses, another inadequacy to add to the list, but she gripped the saddle and held on. The children rode like they'd been born in stirrups, which they probably had been. They found Tommy by the creek, unconscious and bleeding, his leg bent at a wrong angle. The horse stood nearby, reins trailing, looking apologetic. Cole was off his mount before it fully stopped. He knelt beside Tommy, fingers checking pulse, breathing, injuries. His face gave nothing away. How bad? Eliza asked. Broken leg, maybe ribs, concussion. Cole looked at Jake. Collect deadwood, straight pieces, about this long. He gestured. Lily, I need your neckerchief. And yours, he added to Eliza. They moved quickly. Jake returned with wood. Cole used the cloth to bind a splint with movements so practiced they might have been automatic. Gentle despite his rough hands. We need to get him back, Cole said, but moving him wrong could make it worse. He looked at Eliza. You ever set a splint? No. Watch. He showed her how to support the leg, how to tie the bindings tight, but not too tight. His hands guided hers, calloused and warm. Like that. Feel it? She felt it. The balance between helping and hurting. Tommy groaned, stirring. Easy. Cole's voice shifted, soft like when he talked to the children. Stay still, Tom. We've got you. Hurts, Tommy whispered. I know, but you're going to be fine. It took 3 of them to get Tommy onto Cole's horse without jostling the leg too much. Cole mounted behind him, keeping him steady. Jake, take my reins. Lead slow. Eliza, keep pace. Watch for holes. The ride back took forever. Tommy drifted in and out of consciousness. Cole kept up a steady stream of words, grounding him, keeping him present. Eliza watched the way he held the injured boy. Careful. Protective. Like Tommy was made of glass. This was the man who'd watched her scramble in the dirt with cold eyes, who'd said education was worthless, who was currently treating a wounded kid with more tenderness than most people showed healthy children. He didn't make sense. Nothing about him made sense. They got Tommy to the house. Doc Harris was already there. Older man, competent hands, kind face. He took over with brisk efficiency while Cole filled him in. Eliza herded the children to the porch. They were shaking, adrenaline wearing off. Is Tommy going to die? Lily asked, her first full sentence in front of Jake. No, Eliza said firmly. She hoped she wasn't lying. The doctor's very good. Pa died, Lily said. People die all the time. They do. But Tommy's young and strong, and we got to him quickly. Because of Cole. Jake was staring at the house. Cole's always there when something bad happens. He's always there. He cares about you, Eliza said. Both of you, and everyone on this ranch. He cared about Pa, too. Jake's voice cracked. Pa said Cole was the best man he knew. Said if anything ever happened, we should trust him. Eliza felt something shift, pieces clicking into place. Did your father leave instructions? She asked carefully. About who should take care of you? Jake's face shuddered. Don't know. Pa didn't think he'd die. But he was lying. She could see it in the way he wouldn't meet her eyes. Before she could push, Cole emerged. His shirt was bloody, his face drawn. Tommy's stable. Legs set. Doc says he'll recover, but he can't work for months. Thank heavens, Eliza breathed. Cole looked at the children. You two did good today. Your pa would be proud. Lily launched herself at him, just wrapped her arms around his waist and held on. Cole froze for a second, then his hand came up to rest on her head. Awkward, gentle. Hey now, Lilybug. It's all right. Don't want you to die too, Lily whispered into his shirt. I'm not going anywhere. He looked at Jake. Either of you. Promise. Jake nodded, jaw tight, eyes wet. They stood there in the afternoon sun, the 4 of them, holding each other up. And Eliza realized she'd been wrong about so many things. That night, Victor called her to his study. Impressive work today, he said, pouring brandy. Cole said you handled yourself well. The children were remarkable. They like you, trust you. Victor handed her a glass. She didn't usually drink, but today felt exceptional. That's good. That's what we need. Something in his tone made her wary.
Mr. Hale. Victor, please. Victor, is there something you're not telling me about the children? His smile was smooth, practiced.
Just that they're settling in beautifully under your guidance. Everything's proceeding exactly as planned. Planned? Your employment, their education, the arrangement. He sipped his brandy. You're doing exactly what I hired you to do. But there was something under the words, something that made her skin prickle. What exactly did you hire me to do? Beyond teaching? To civilize them, Miss Hart, to make them suitable for proper society. He set down his glass. I'm planning to send them to a boarding school back east. Excellent institution. They'll get a real education, opportunities this place can't offer. Eliza's stomach dropped. You're sending them away? Not immediately. A few months, once they're more, manageable. He smiled. Your work will make the transition easier. They'll arrive already partially civilized. They don't want to leave. This is their home. This is a ranch, Miss Hart, not a home, not for children.
Victor's voice hardened slightly.
Their father worked for me. He was an employee. The children are my responsibility now, and I'll do what's best for them. What's best for them is staying where they're loved, with people who understand them. With ranch hands and cowboys, learning to muck stalls instead of proper skills. Victor shook his head. You're a teacher. Surely you understand the value of real education. I understand the value of family. Family? Victor laughed, sharp. Miss Hart, Cole Maddox is not their family. He's a hired hand with a violent past and no future. The children need stability, refinement. They need to forget this rough life and become something better. Eliza set down her glass with deliberate care. Does Cole know about this plan? Cole knows his place, which is managing this ranch, not raising children. And if he disagrees, then he can find work elsewhere. Victor's smile never reached his eyes. I value Cole's skills, Miss Hart, but he's replaceable. Everyone is. The threat was clear, comply or leave. And if she left, who would protect the children? Eliza stood. Thank you for the brandy. Think about what I've said. You're doing important work. Don't let sentiment cloud your judgment. She left before she said something she'd regret. Outside, the night was cool, clear. She could see the bunkhouse, warm light spilling from its windows, could hear the low murmur of men's voices. Cole sat on the porch rail, smoking. He looked up as she approached. You look like you've had bad news. Victor's planning to send the children to boarding school. Cole went very still. When? A few months. He thinks I'm preparing them for it, making them civilized. Are you? No. She sat beside him, uninvited. I'm teaching them to think, to question, to know their own worth. That's not what Victor wants. No, it's not. Cole took a long drag. He wants them molded, shaped, turned into little society puppets. Did you know about the boarding school? Suspected. Victor's good at presenting things as charity when they're really about control. He flicked ash into the darkness. The children's father didn't trust him, made me promise to look after them if anything happened. A promise, not a legal arrangement. Samuel didn't have anything legal, just his word and mine. Cole's voice was bitter. Doesn't mean much against Victor's lawyers. There has to be something we can do. We? He looked at her. You're part of this now? I'm their teacher. That makes me responsible. You're Victor's employee, just like me. That makes you his. Eliza felt anger spark. I'm not anyone's property. No, try defying him. See how long you last. Cole stood. You want to help the children? Do your job. Teach them. Prepare them. And when Victor sends them away, at least they'll have the tools to survive. That's your advice? Give up? That's reality. Something you still don't seem to grasp. He headed for the door. Good night, Miss Hart. Dream your dreams. The rest of us will deal with the world as it is. He left her alone in the dark. Eliza sat there, shaking with frustration, with helplessness. Everyone kept telling her to accept reality, to be practical, to understand how things worked out here. But reality, she was learning, was just what powerful men decided it should be. And practical meant letting them decide. She'd spent her whole life being practical, being realistic, accepting limitations. Maybe it was time to stop. The next morning, she taught the children about law, property rights, guardianship. She didn't tell them why, just made it part of their education. Jake soaked it up like he was dying of thirst. So if someone leaves a will, that's legal? Can't be overturned? Generally, no. Unless there's proof it was made under duress or the person wasn't of sound mind. And if there's no will, then the state decides. Usually chooses the next of kin or someone the court deems suitable. Jake's face was tight, thinking hard. Is there something you want to tell me? Eliza asked gently. He looked at Lily. Some silent conversation passed between them. Then Jake pulled a folded paper from his pocket, worn, creased, clearly read many times. Pa left something for Cole, but Cole doesn't know we have it. Eliza unfolded the paper carefully. It was a letter, written in rough but clear hand. To whom it may concern. If something happens to me, I want Cole Maddox to have guardianship of my children. He's the only man I trust with their lives. He knows them, loves them, will keep them safe when I can't. This is my will and my wish. Samuel Hart. It was dated 2 weeks before Samuel died. Signed, witnessed by Doc Harris. Why didn't you give this to Cole? Eliza asked. Because Mr. Hale said Pa was out of his head at the end, fevered, that nothing he said or wrote counted. Jake's hands clenched, but Pa wasn't. He was clear. He knew what he wanted. And you've kept this hidden for 2 months? We were scared. Mr. Hale's important. Got lawyers and money and everything. Lily's voice was small. What if they said it didn't matter? What if they took us away anyway? Eliza looked at these 2 small, fierce children who'd carried this secret like a weight. This matters, she said firmly. This is legal. It's your father's will. Will it stop Mr. Hale from sending us to school? I don't know, but it gives Cole rights, legal standing. She folded the letter carefully. We need to show him, tonight. What if he doesn't want us? Lily whispered. What if he says no? Eliza thought about Cole's hands, gentle on Tommy's injuries. His promise to the children that he wasn't going anywhere. He won't say no. That evening, she found Cole in the barn, always the barn, like it was the only place he felt safe. I need to show you something. He looked up from the horse he was grooming, wary. If this is about the boarding school, it's about Samuel Hart's will. That got his attention. Samuel didn't have a will. He did. She held out the letter. The children had been hiding it. They were afraid. Cole took it, read slowly. His face went carefully blank. This is real? His voice was rough. Doc Harris witnessed it. It's legal. Victor won't accept this. He'll have to. It's a legal document expressing Samuel's clear wishes. Cole read it again. His hands shook slightly. He wanted me to raise them. He trusted you, more than anyone. I'm a ranch foreman with nothing to my name. No property, no prospects. What judge would give me custody? One who reads this letter and sees that you're what Samuel wanted, what the children want. Eliza stepped closer. You're not fighting Victor alone anymore. I'll testify. Doc Harris will testify, and the children will testify about what their father said to them. You'd go against Victor? Risk your job? My job is teaching those children. I can't do that if they're shipped off to some boarding school where nobody knows them. She met his eyes. And I won't stand by while a man's dying wish is ignored because it's inconvenient. Something shifted in Cole's expression, something that looked almost like hope. This could get ugly. I expect it will. Victor could destroy your reputation, make it impossible for you to teach anywhere. He could try. Eliza smiled, sharp. But I've survived worse than a wealthy man's disapproval. Cole studied her for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, he smiled back. You're tougher than you look, teacher. So I've been told. They stood there in the lamplight, 2 people who shouldn't have anything in common, holding a piece of paper that might change everything. What do we do now? Cole asked. Now, Eliza said. We fight. The fight started 3 days later, but not the way Eliza expected. She'd imagined a formal confrontation. Victor in his study, Cole presenting the letter, a civilized discussion about legal rights and dying wishes. She'd been naive enough to think reason might win. Instead, she woke to shouting. The sun wasn't even up yet. She threw on her dressing gown and hurried downstairs to find Victor standing in the hallway, fully dressed, face red with fury. "You have no authority here, Maddox. None." Cole stood his ground, the letter in his hand. "Samuel gave me authority. This is legal. That's a piece of paper written by a dying man out of his mind with fever. Doc Harris says he was lucid, witnessed it himself. Doc Harris is a drunk who'd sign anything for the right price." Victor snatched the letter from Cole's hand. "You really think this changes anything? You think some scrawled note gives you rights to my wards?" "Your wards?" Cole's voice dropped dangerously low. "They're not your property, Victor. They're not yours either. You're a foreman, a hired hand. You have nothing to offer those children except a rough life and rougher future." Eliza stepped into view. "That's not true." Both men turned. Victor's expression shifted to something calculated. "Miss Hart, how kind of you to join us. Perhaps you can talk sense into Cole." "I'm not here to talk sense. I'm here to support Samuel Hart's clearly stated wishes." She descended the stairs, aware she was in her nightclothes but past caring. "That letter is legal. It names Cole as guardian. It names him as preferred guardian. The court will decide what's actually in the children's best interest." Victor's smile was cold. "And I assure you, no judge will choose a penniless cowboy over a man of means who can provide education, opportunity, and social standing." "You're planning to ship them away," Cole said, "to some school where they'll be miserable and alone. How's that in their best interest? They'll be civilized, educated properly. Given chances, they'd never have stuck on this ranch with you." Victor turned to Eliza. "Surely you understand this, Miss Hart. As an educator, I understand that children need stability and love more than social standing." "How disappointing." Victor's expression hardened. "I had hoped you'd be reasonable. Instead, you've apparently been corrupted by Cole's influence." "Nobody's corrupted me. I've made my own decisions." "Then you've made poor ones." Victor folded the letter carefully, slipped it into his jacket. "I'll be taking this to my lawyer in Austin. He'll explain to the court why a fevered man's scribbling doesn't supersede proper legal guardianship. And while I'm gone, I expect both of you to remember who employs you." "You can't just take that," Cole started forward. "I can, and I am. It's evidence in a custody matter, best kept somewhere safe." Victor's smile was sharp. "Don't worry, you'll get it back. When the judge laughs this whole thing out of court." He headed for the door. Cole moved to follow, but Eliza caught his arm. "Let him go. He's stealing evidence. He's securing it for legal proceedings, which means there will be proceedings. That's what we want." Cole's jaw worked. "What we want is those children safe, and they will be, but not if you get yourself arrested for assaulting Victor Hale." She kept her voice low, steady. "We have Doc Harris. We have the children's testimony. We can fight this legally. Legal takes time, money, things I don't have. Then we find them." Victor paused at the door. "Oh, and Cole, I'll need you to move out of the foreman's cabin. I'm bringing in someone new, someone who understands loyalty." The words hit like a punch. Eliza felt Cole stiffen beside her. "You're firing me?" "I'm restructuring. Don't take it personally. I simply need people I can trust." Victor settled his hat. "You have until I return from Austin to clear out. 3 days should be sufficient." He left. The door closed behind him with quiet finality. Cole stood very still. Eliza could see the tension in his shoulders, the careful control in his breathing. "He can't do this," she said. "He just did." Cole's voice was flat, empty. "He owns the ranch. He can hire and fire whoever he wants." "But you have rights. You've worked here for years." "Doesn't matter. This is Texas. Employment's at will." He looked at the door where Victor had disappeared. "I should have seen this coming. Victor doesn't like being challenged. Where will you go?" "Don't know. Away. Maybe Colorado. Heard they need hands up there." Eliza's stomach dropped. "You can't leave. The children need you. The children need someone who can actually protect them." "That's not me. Not anymore." He started toward the stairs, movements mechanical. I'll pack my things. Be gone before he gets back. So that's it? You're just giving up? Cole spun around. What do you want from me, Eliza? You want me to stay and fight with what? I've got no job, no money, no legal standing. Victor has lawyers and influence and everything I don't. What exactly am I supposed to do? You're supposed to keep your promise. She heard her voice rise and didn't care. You promised Samuel. You promised the children. You said you'd protect them. And I will. By getting out of Victor's way before he takes them just to spite me. His face was hard. Closed. You think I want this? You think I want to leave? I think you're scared. And I think you're using practicality as an excuse to run. The words hung between them. Harsh. True. Cole's expression went cold. You don't know anything about me. I know you love those children. I know they love you. And I know walking away will destroy them worse than any boarding school. Better destroyed than watching me fail them. Better gone than here and useless. He climbed the stairs before she could respond. A moment later, she heard his door slam. Eliza stood in the empty hallway, shaking with anger and frustration and fear. This was falling apart. All of it. And she had no idea how to fix it. The children found her an hour later, sitting in the schoolroom, staring at nothing. Where's Cole? Jake asked immediately. Eliza didn't know how to answer. Packing. Packing for what? Mr. Hale fired him. He has to leave. Lily made a sound like a wounded animal. Jake's face went white. He can't leave, Jake said. He promised. I know. So make him stay. I can't make him do anything, Jake. Neither can you. Then what good are you? Jake's voice cracked. What good is any of this? You said we could fight. You said the letter mattered. It does matter. It doesn't matter if Cole's gone. Jake kicked over a desk. The crash echoed. It doesn't matter if we're sent away anyway. Nothing matters. He ran. Eliza started to follow, but Lily caught her hand. Let him go, the little girl whispered. He needs to be angry somewhere. Eliza looked down at this small child who understood too much about grief and loss and helplessness. I'm sorry, Lily. I thought we could fix this. Papa said some things can't be fixed. Just survived. Lily's grip tightened. But Cole can't leave. We'll be alone again. You won't be alone. You'll have each other, and you'll have me. You'll leave too. Everyone leaves. Lily's voice was matter-of-fact, accepting. That's what happens. Eliza pulled the girl into her arms, felt her small body shake with silent sobs. I'm not leaving, I promise. Promises don't mean anything. And that, Eliza thought, was the saddest thing she'd ever heard. She found Cole in this barn that evening, grooming his horse with vicious efficiency. His saddlebags sat packed nearby. Leaving tonight? She asked. Tomorrow morning, before the children wake up. Coward's way out. His hand stilled. Maybe I am a coward. You're not. You're scared and hurt and lashing out. But you're not a coward. She stepped closer. Talk to them. Explain. Explain what? That I failed? That Victor outmaneuvered me? That I'm abandoning them just like everyone else? His voice was raw. What words make that acceptable? None. But saying goodbye is better than vanishing. Is it? Or does it just make it hurt longer? Eliza thought about her mother. The long goodbye. The months of watching her fade. It hurts either way. At least goodbye gives them closure. Cole set down the brush. His shoulders sagged. I don't know how to do this. Neither do I. We'll figure it out together. He laughed, bitter. You're stubborn, you know that? I'm a teacher. It's a requirement. She picked up the brush he'd dropped, started working on the horse herself. The rhythm was soothing. Tell me about Samuel. What was he like? Cole was quiet so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, he was good, genuinely good. Worked hard, never complained, treated everyone fair, loved those kids more than anything. Sounds like someone else I know. I'm nothing like Samuel. You're exactly like him. That's why he trusted you. She worked a tangle from the horse's mane. What would he do? If he were here? He'd fight, somehow, even if it was impossible. Cole's voice softened. He never gave up on anything, drove me crazy sometimes. So don't give up now. I don't have anything to fight with. You have the truth, and witnesses, and me. Eliza set down the brush.
And you have the children who believe in you. That has to count for something. Cole looked at her, really looked. Why are you doing this? You could stay out of it. Keep your job. Victor would probably even give you a raise for staying neutral. I didn't come to Texas to stay neutral. I came to teach children. She met his eyes, and I've learned more from them than they have from me. About courage, about fighting for what matters, about not giving up when things get hard. Brave words. Then help me live up to them. They stood there in the lamplight, the moment stretching between them. Eliza felt something shift, some understanding that went deeper than words. If I stay, Cole said slowly, if we fight this, it's going to get worse before it gets better. Victor doesn't lose gracefully. I'm counting on it. That surprised a real smile from him, small, but genuine. You're crazy. Probably, she smiled back. But I'm here, and I'm not leaving.
So you might as well stay too. Cole shook his head, but something in his face had eased. All right, we'll try it your way, but when this all falls apart, if it falls apart, we'll pick up the pieces and try something else. You always this optimistic? No, usually I'm quite practical and pessimistic. You're bringing out my worst qualities. He actually laughed at that. The sound was rusty, but real. They worked together in comfortable silence, finishing the horse's grooming. When they were done, Cole unpacked his saddlebags without comment. It wasn't victory. It was barely even progress. But it was something. The next morning, Eliza made a decision that would have shocked her Boston colleagues. She saddled a horse, badly, but she managed, and rode into town. The county seat was 10 miles away, a collection of buildings that generously called itself civilization. She found the courthouse easily enough, a 2-story structure that looked newer than everything around it. The county clerk was a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and no patience for nonsense. Help you? I need to file a legal document. A will. Original or copy? We have the original, but it's currently with a lawyer in Austin. I need to establish that it exists and was filed in case it goes missing. The clerk's eyes narrowed. Someone trying to make a will disappear? Possibly. That's illegal. So I've been told, which is why I'm here. Eliza produced a copy she'd made from memory, every word exactly as Samuel had written. Can you file this? Create a record? The clerk read it over. This is a guardianship will. You one of the witnesses? No, but I can bring the witness who signed it, Dr. William Harris. I know, Doc. Good man. The clerk made notes. This'll cost filing fees, $5. Eliza had exactly $7 to her name. She handed over $5 without hesitation. The clerk stamped the document, made entries in her ledger. This is now official county record. If someone claims no will exists, this proves otherwise. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Having a record doesn't mean winning. Victor Hale's got a lot of pull around here. So I've noticed. But between you and me, the clerk leaned forward. I've known Cole Maddox since he came to this territory. That man's got more integrity in his little finger than Victor's got in his whole body. Those kids would be lucky to have him. Eliza felt something warm in her chest. Hope? Maybe. Then you'll testify to that if needed? Didn't say that. I've got a job to keep. But the clerk's expression was knowing. Though if I happened to be in the courtroom on the right day, and if the judge happened to ask about Cole's character, well, can't control what comes out of my mouth under oath. Eliza smiled. Of course not. She rode back to the ranch feeling like she'd accomplished something. It was small, maybe insignificant, but it was action, movement, better than sitting and waiting for disaster. Cole found her that evening. Where'd you go today? Town. Filed a copy of Samuel's will with the county. His eyebrows rose. You did what? Created a legal record that it exists. So if Victor's lawyer claims it's invalid or lost, we have proof. She pulled out the receipt. Official county record as of this morning. Cole took the paper, stared at it like it might vanish. You used your own money. I used $5. It's not exactly a fortune. It is when you only make $20 a month. His voice was rough. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. Those children deserve better than being shuffled off because paperwork disappeared. She met his eyes. We all do. Something passed between them, something that made her breath catch.
"Thank you," Cole said quietly.
"You're welcome." They stood there in the fading light, and Eliza realized she was in dangerous territory. This wasn't just about the children anymore. This was about something else entirely. She cleared her throat. "I should check on Lily. She's been quiet today." "She's always quiet." "Quieter than usual." Cole nodded. "I'll come with you." They found both children in the barn, sitting in the hay. Jake was reading aloud from one of Eliza's books, stumbling over words but persistent. Lily leaned against him, listening. They looked up when Cole and Eliza entered. "You're still here," Jake said to Cole. Statement, not question. "I'm still here." "Mr. Hale said you were leaving." "Mr. Hale says a lot of things. Doesn't make them true." Cole settled into the hay beside them. "I made a promise to your pa. I don't break promises." Lily crawled into his lap without asking. Cole's arms came around her automatically. "Are we going to have to leave?" she asked. "Not if I can help it." "What if you can't help it?" Cole looked at Eliza. She saw the question in his eyes. "What do we tell them?" "Then we'll figure something else out," Eliza said. "Together. All of us." "Adults always say that," Jake muttered. "Then they do whatever they want anyway." "Some adults do. But Cole and I won't. You have my word." Eliza sat across from them.
"But we need to be honest with you. This is going to be hard. Mr. Hale doesn't want Cole to be your guardian.
"He wants to send you to boarding school." "We know," Jake said. "We heard him talking about it weeks ago." "And you didn't say anything?" "What would we say? We're kids. Nobody listens to us." That hit harder than it should have. "I'm listening now." Jake and Lily exchanged looks, having some silent conversation only siblings understood.
"We want to stay with Cole," Lily said finally. "Not at a school. Not with Mr. Hale. With Cole." "And if a judge says no?" Cole asked gently. "Then we'll run away." Jake said it like it was simple. "Live in the mountains. Nobody'll find us." "You can't run away." "Why not? Better than being somewhere we don't want to be." Cole's face tightened. "Because running doesn't solve anything, just makes new problems." "You were going to run," Lily pointed out. "We saw you packing. That was different." "How?" Cole didn't have an answer. After a moment, he said, "You're right. It wasn't different. I was scared and I was running. That was wrong." The children stared at him. Adults didn't admit they were wrong. Not in their experience. "So what do we do?" Jake asked. "We fight," Cole said. "Legal and proper. We show the judge your pa's will. We get people to testify that I can take care of you. And we pray it's enough. And if it's not, then we figure out plan B, but we don't give up, and we don't run." Cole looked at each of them in turn. "Deal?" They nodded. Jake stuck out his hand for a shake. Cole took it seriously, man to man. Lily just burrowed deeper into his arms and whispered, "Don't leave us." "Never," Cole promised. "Whatever happens, I won't leave you." Eliza watched them, this makeshift family bound by loss and love and desperation, and felt her heart break a little. They were going to fight an uphill battle against money and power and social expectations. The odds were terrible. The chances of winning were slim. But looking at their faces, she thought maybe that didn't matter. Maybe just fighting was enough. Maybe standing up and refusing to be moved was its own kind of victory. She just hoped it would be enough to keep them together. Victor returned from Austin 3 days later with a lawyer in tow. Thomas Aldridge was everything Eliza expected. Expensive suit, smooth manner, eyes that calculated value in every interaction. They called a meeting in the study. Victor behind his desk, Aldridge beside him, Cole and Eliza standing like defendants. "We've reviewed the document you claim is Samuel Hart's will," Aldridge began. "And while it's technically valid, there are significant concerns." "Such as?" Cole asked. "Such as the testator's mental state when he wrote it, such as whether he understood the implications of naming a single man with no family support as guardian, such as whether this arrangement is truly in the children's best interest. Doc Harris says Samuel was clear-headed. Doc Harris is hardly a reliable witness. His reputation is questionable." Aldridge shuffled papers. "Furthermore, Mr. Maddox, you have no stable home.
No income as of 3 days ago. No resources to provide proper care. I'll find work. Where? Who's going to hire a foreman without references? Because I assure you, Mr. Hale will not be providing positive recommendations. The threat was clear. Victor smiled slightly. This is extortion, Eliza said. This is reality, Miss Hart. Mr. Maddox is unsuitable as a guardian. The court will agree. Aldridge pulled out another document. However, Mr. Hale is prepared to be generous. If Mr. Maddox agrees to sign away any claim to the children and leave the territory quietly, Mr. Hale will provide a severance payment. Shall we say $500? $500 was a fortune. More than Cole would make in 2 years of work. Eliza held her breath. Cole looked at the document, at Victor's expectant face, at the money being offered. Then he looked at Aldridge and said, "No." Victor's smile vanished. "Excuse me?" I said no. You can't buy me off. Those children aren't for sale. Be reasonable, Maddox. You can't win this. You have nothing. I have Samuel's trust, his will, his children's love. Cole's voice was steady. That's more than you'll ever have. That's sentiment. It means nothing in court. Then we'll see what the court says. But I'm not signing anything and I'm not leaving. Cole turned to go. We're done here. You're making a mistake, Aldridge called after him. Cole paused at the door. Maybe, but it's my mistake to make. He left. Eliza started to follow, but Victor's voice stopped her. Miss Hart, a word. She turned. Victor's expression was cold, calculating. You've chosen your side poorly. I've chosen the side that's right. Right doesn't pay your salary. I do. Victor leaned back. You're terminated, effective immediately. Pack your things and be gone by morning. Eliza had expected this, had known it was coming. It still felt like a blow. Understood, she said calmly. That's it? No pleading? No promises to behave? Would it change anything? No. Then there's nothing to say. Eliza met his eyes. Except this. Those children are smarter, braver, and better than you'll ever understand. Whatever happens, they'll survive. Because they're survivors, like their father. She left before he could respond. In the hallway, Cole was waiting. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. You just lost your job, your income, everything. I lost a job. There'll be other jobs. She managed to smile. Besides, how could I live with myself if I backed down now? Most people would. I'm not most people. No, Cole said quietly. You're really not. They stood there, two people who'd lost everything, with nothing ahead but uncertainty and a fight they'd probably lose. And somehow, Eliza felt more alive than she had in years. So what now? She asked. Now we get ready for court, gather witnesses, build a case. Cole's jaw set. And we show Victor Hale that some things can't be bought. Even if we lose? Even if we lose. Because the children need to see that someone fought for them, that someone thought they were worth fighting for. Eliza nodded. Then let's get to work. They had 2 weeks before the hearing, 2 weeks to build a case against money, power, and social expectation. 2 weeks to prove that love and promise mattered more than wealth. It wasn't enough time. It would never be enough time. But it was all they had, so they'd make it work. The first witness they lost was Doc Harris. Eliza found him in his office above the general store, 3 days before the hearing. He was sober, which was something, but the look on his face told her everything before he opened his mouth. I can't testify. What do you mean you can't? She kept her voice level. You witnessed Samuel's will. You signed it. I know what I signed. Doc rubbed his face. Looked older than his years. But Aldridge came by yesterday. Asked me some questions about my medical license, my credentials, how much I drink. That's intimidation. That's smart lawyering, and he's right about all of it. Doc met her eyes. I lost my license in Missouri 5 years ago. Drinking on duty. A patient died. I came here because nobody asked questions, but it doesn't mean I'm qualified to witness legal documents. Eliza felt the ground shift under her feet. Samuel trusted you. Samuel was a good man who trusted too easily. Doesn't make my signature worth anything in court. Doc pulled out a bottle, looked at it, put it back. I'm sorry, Miss Hart, truly. But if I testify, Aldridge will tear me apart. Make it look like I was drunk when I witnessed that will. Make it look like Samuel was out of his head and I was too soused to notice. Were you? No, I was stone sober and Samuel was clear as day, but can I prove it? Not against a lawyer like Aldridge. He slumped in his chair. I'd hurt Cole's case more than help it. You know I would. Eliza wanted to argue, wanted to demand he do the right thing. But looking at his defeated face, she knew he was right. What about a deposition? A written statement? Aldridge would challenge it, call me to testify anyway just to destroy my credibility. It's what I'd do if I were him. Doc's smile was bitter. I'm sorry. Tell Cole I'm sorry. Eliza left without another word. Outside, the afternoon sun was too bright, too cheerful for how she felt. One witness down, and he'd been their strongest. She found Cole at the livery stable, mucking out stalls for the owner in exchange for room and board. Honest work. Hard work. The kind that left him filthy and exhausted at the end of each day. He looked up when she entered, read her face. Doc said no. Worse. He said yes would hurt us more than help. She leaned against the wall. Aldridge found his weakness and exploited it. Cole drove the pitchfork into the ground. Of course he did. That's what good lawyers do. Find the cracks and hammer them open. So what do? We keep going? We've still got the county clerk's record. We've got the children's testimony. Victor's lawyer will argue the children are too young to know what's best for them. Probably. Cole wiped sweat from his face. What about you? You witnessed how Samuel was with his kids, how he trusted me. That counts for something.
I knew Samuel for exactly 0 days. I arrived after he died. Aldridge will make me look like a meddling outsider who doesn't understand frontier life. You are an outsider. Doesn't mean you're wrong. Eliza appreciated the sentiment. Didn't make it feel any better. We're losing before we even start. Maybe, but we're still starting. Cole picked up the pitchfork again. My pa used to say you don't stop fighting just because you're losing. You stop fighting when you're dead. Inspiring. He was a mean drunk, so I wouldn't take it too seriously. But the point stands. He attacked the stall with renewed vigor. We knew this would be hard. Knew Victor had every advantage. Nothing's changed except we're actually doing it instead of just talking about it. You're remarkably calm. I'm terrified. I'm just good at hiding it. He paused, leaned on the pitchfork. You know what scares me most? Not losing. Not the court saying I'm unfit. What scares me is the kids thinking nobody fought for them, that they weren't worth the effort. They'll never think that. They see how hard you're trying. Do they? Or do they just see another adult about to let them down? His voice was rough. Jake asked me yesterday what happens if we lose. I told him we'd figure it out. He said that's what his pa said right before he died, that they'd figure out the fever, that everything would be fine. Eliza's chest hurt. What did you say? Nothing. What could I say? That I'm different? That I won't die and leave them? How do I promise that? Cole's hands tightened on the wooden handle. I can't even promise I'll win this hearing. No, but you can promise you'll try, that you'll fight, that you won't give up. She moved closer. And you can promise that even if you lose, you'll still be there, still be in their lives somehow. That's more than most people get. Cole looked at her, really looked. When did you get so wise? I'm not wise. I'm making this up as I go. She managed a smile. But I believe what I said. These children have already lost too much. They need to see someone stand up for them, even if that person falls down. Especially if that person falls down, Cole said quietly. Shows them falling isn't the end. Getting back up is what matters. They stood there in the dusty stable, two people holding on to hope by their fingernails. There's something else, Eliza said. I've been thinking about the hearing, about how to present this. I'm listening. Victor's going to paint you as rough, uneducated, unsuitable. He's going to make it look like you're trying to keep the children on the ranch for labor. Exploitation disguised as guardianship. That's insane. That's strategy, and it'll work if we don't counter it. She'd been working this through for days. We need to show the judge not just that Samuel trusted you, but why. We need to show what kind of man you are, your character, your values. How? Witnesses.
Not to the will, but to you. People who can testify about how you treat others, your integrity, the kind of person you are. She pulled out a list she'd been making. The ranch hands who work under you, the shopkeepers in town, anyone who's seen you with the children. Cole shook his head. Most of those people work for Victor. They won't risk their jobs to help me. Some might, if we ask the right way. Eliza met his eyes. And some might not work for Victor at all. The county clerk already indicated she'd testify if called. There must be others. This is a small territory. Victor has reach. So we look beyond his reach. We find people who don't owe him anything. She could see him starting to think it through. It's not much, but it's something. Cole studied her list. This is going to take time we don't have. Then we'd better hurry. They split up. Cole went to the ranch hands he'd worked with over the years. Eliza went into town, knocking on doors, asking questions, looking for anyone who might help. She found resistance everywhere. People were sympathetic. Nobody wanted to testify. The blacksmith shook his head. Cole's a good man, but I've got contracts with Hale Ranch. Can't afford to lose them. The general store owner was more blunt. I feel for those kids. But Victor Hale owns half this town. I speak against him. I'm finished. The school teacher, an older woman who looked at Eliza with something like pity, said, You're new here. You don't understand how things work. Victor always wins. Always. People who fight him end up broken or gone. By the third day, Eliza had exactly 2 people willing to testify. The county clerk, who'd do it if subpoenaed but wouldn't volunteer, and a widow named Sarah Chen who ran a boarding house and had no business dealings with Victor. Cole helped me when my husband died, Mrs., Chen said. Fixed my roof. Didn't charge nothing. I know what kind of man he is. It was something. It wasn't enough. Cole had better luck with the ranch hands, but only slightly. Most had already been let go or warned by Victor's new foreman. But he found 3 willing to speak. 3 men who'd worked alongside him and were either too old or too stubborn to care about consequences. Won't change the outcome, one of them said. But at least people will know the truth, for whatever that's worth. The night before the hearing, they gathered in the livery stable, Cole, Eliza, and the children. The kids had been staying with Mrs. Chen since Victor made it clear they weren't welcome at the ranch unless they accepted his authority. Jake was angry. He'd been angry for days. This is stupid. We should just run. We've been through this, Cole said. Yeah, and it's still stupid. You're going to lose. Everybody says so. Then what? They drag us to some school and we never see you again? If I lose, we'll appeal. Fight it higher. With what money? Cole didn't have an answer for that. Lily sat pressed against Eliza's side, quiet as always, but her small hand gripped Eliza's dress tight enough to wrinkle the fabric. I'm scared, Lily whispered. Me too, sweetheart, Eliza said honestly. What if the judge is mean? Then we'll be polite anyway. Show him we're not afraid. But we are afraid. Being afraid and being brave aren't opposites. You can be both. Eliza smoothed Lily's hair. Your papa was brave, and I'll bet he was scared sometimes too. Pa said being scared just means you care about something. Lily's voice was small. He said only fools and liars claim they're never scared. Cole made a sound that might have been agreement. Your pa was a smart man. They sat together in the lamp-lit stable, the 4 of them, not talking much, just being together, taking comfort in proximity. At some point, Jake fell asleep against Cole's shoulder. Lily dozed in Eliza's lap. The 2 adults looked at each other over the children's heads. Whatever happens tomorrow, Cole said quietly, I want you to know something. What? You didn't have to do any of this. Get involved, lose your job, risk your reputation. You could have walked away a dozen times. So could you. These are my kids, my responsibility. You don't owe them anything. Maybe not, but I owe myself. Eliza looked down at Lily's sleeping face. I came out here to teach children, to make a difference. Turns out making a difference is harder and messier than I thought, but it's also more important. You'll make a terrible teacher if you keep getting fired for having principles. Then I'll be a terrible teacher. I can live with that. She met his eyes. Can you live with losing tomorrow? I'll have to, but it'll hurt like hell. Yeah, it will. They sat in silence after that, waiting for dawn, waiting for the fight that would decide everything. The courthouse was smaller than Eliza expected. One room, wooden benches, a judge's bench that had seen better days. Judge Martin Calhoun presided, 60-ish, weathered face, eyes that looked like they'd seen too much nonsense to be impressed by more. Victor sat in the front row with Aldridge, both immaculate in Eastern suits. Cole wore his best shirt, which wasn't saying much, and looked uncomfortable in his own skin. Eliza sat beside him, wearing the only dress she owned that wasn't ruined by ranch work. The children were in the back with Mrs. Chen. Lily's face was pale. Jake looked ready to fight someone. Judge Calhoun banged his gavel. This is a hearing to determine guardianship of Lily and Jacob Hart, orphaned minors. Mr. Aldridge, you're representing Victor Hale's petition for custody? Yes, Your Honor. Aldridge stood smoothly. Mr. Hale is the children's employer's heir and has provided for them since their father's death. He seeks to continue that care by providing educational opportunities unavailable in this territory. And Mr. Maddox is contesting this based on... The judge looked at Cole. Cole stood. He had no lawyer, couldn't afford one. Based on Samuel Hart's will, Your Honor, he named me guardian. I've reviewed the document in question. Judge Calhoun held up Samuel's letter. It's informal, but appears legitimate. Mr. Aldridge, your objection? Several, Your Honor. First, the testator's mental state when writing this. He was fevered and dying. Second, the witness is unreliable, a disgraced doctor with drinking problems. Third, and most importantly, whether this arrangement serves the children's best interests. Mr. Maddox, you have witnesses to your character and capability? Yes, sir, a few. Then let's hear them. Keep it brief. I've got 3 other cases today. They called Mrs. Chen first. She testified about Cole's kindness, his reliability, his honest work. Aldridge cross-examined her gently, establishing that she'd known Cole for less than a year and had no knowledge of his past. The ranch hands came next. They spoke about Cole's leadership, his fairness, how he treated the children with respect. Aldridge got each of them to admit they no longer worked for Victor and might hold grudges. The county clerk testified about filing the will, about Cole's reputation in town. Aldridge pointed out she had no direct knowledge of Samuel's wishes beyond the document itself. It wasn't going well. Eliza could see the judge's expression, polite but skeptical. He'd heard testimony about Cole's character. What he hadn't heard was why that character made him suitable for guardianship. Then Aldridge called Victor to the stand. Mr. Hale, how long have you known the Hart children? Since they were born, their father worked for me for 15 years. I considered him a friend. And what's your relationship with the children? I care about them deeply. They've suffered tremendous loss. I want to give them stability, education, opportunities. What opportunities specifically? I've arranged admission to the Hartford Academy in Connecticut. Excellent school. They'll receive first-rate education, social refinement, preparation for proper lives. And if they remain here, with Mr. Maddox? Victor's expression shifted to something like regret. Perfectly performed. Mr. Maddox is a good foreman, but he's not suitable for raising children. He has no home, no income, no family support. What future can he offer them? Ranch work? Hard labor? They deserve better. Aldridge nodded sympathetically. Would you say Mr. Maddox has the resources to properly care for these children? Absolutely not. Through no fault of his own, he simply doesn't have the means. Thank you, Mr. Hale. Your witness, Mr. Maddox. Cole stood slowly. He looked at Victor across the courtroom. There was something in his face Eliza couldn't quite read. You said Samuel was your friend. He was. Did he ever talk to you about his wishes for his children if something happened to him? Victor hesitated, just a fraction of a second. We discussed it generally. And what did he say? That he wanted them educated, cared for properly. Did he mention me? Mr. Maddox, Samuel mentioned many people. He was a friendly man. Did he mention me by name as someone he trusted with his children? I don't recall specifically. You don't recall. Cole's voice was flat. But you recall he wanted them educated. You recall every detail that supports your case. Funny how memory works. Objection, Aldridge said, argumentative. Sustained. Mr. Maddox, ask questions, don't make speeches. Cole nodded. Mr. Hale, why'd you fire me? Victor blinked. I'm sorry? 3 days after I challenged your guardianship claim, you fired me. Why? That was a business decision, unrelated to this matter. Was it? Or was it punishment for fighting you? I needed a foreman I could trust, and I'd worked for you for 6 years without issue. But suddenly you couldn't trust me? Cole leaned forward. Or did you just want to make sure I couldn't provide for the children? Make me look incapable by taking away my income? Aldridge stood. Your Honor, this is improper. It's relevant, Cole cut in. He's arguing I can't care for the kids because I have no resources. But he's the one who took away my resources right before this hearing. Judge Calhoun looked at Victor. Mr. Hale, is that accurate? You terminated Mr. Maddox's employment in conjunction with this custody dispute? The timing was coincidental. Seems awfully convenient. The judge made a note. Continue, Mr. Maddox. Cole pressed on. Where are the children now, Mr. Hale? I'm sorry? Right now, this minute. Where are they living? With a boarding house owner, temporarily. Not with you, in your house? It wouldn't be appropriate without proper supervision. But you're asking to be their guardian. Shouldn't they be with you already, getting to know you, seeing what life with you would be like? Victor's composure cracked slightly. The situation is complicated. It's not complicated. You don't actually want to raise them. You want to ship them off to boarding school and forget about them. Out of sight, out of mind. Cole's voice rose. You're not doing this for them. You're doing it to win, because you don't like being challenged. That's absurd. Is it? Tell me, Mr. Hale, when's the last time you ate dinner with those children? When's the last time you read them a story? Asked about their day? Comforted them when they cried? Victor had no answer. That's what I thought. Cole sat down. The courtroom was silent. Even Aldridge looked momentarily off balance. Judge Calhoun studied Victor for a long moment. Then, Mr. Aldridge, call your next witness. The children themselves, Your Honor, to speak to what arrangement they prefer. Jake went first. He was sworn in, sitting in the witness chair looking too small and too stubborn. Aldridge approached with a kind smile. Jake, I know this is difficult, but I need to ask you some questions. Go ahead. Do you like Mr. Hale? He's fine. Just fine? He's offering you a wonderful opportunity, a good school, proper education, chances you wouldn't have here. I don't want chances. I want to stay here. But surely you want to learn, to make something of yourself. I'm learning plenty. Miss Hart teaches us. So does Cole. Miss Hart is no longer employed, and Cole has no steady work. How will he teach you while working odd jobs to survive? Jake's jaw set. He'll figure it out. Cole always figures it out. That's admirable loyalty, but loyalty doesn't put food on the table. It kept us alive when Pa died. When we had nobody, Cole was there. For now. But what about next year, 5 years from now? What kind of future does Cole offer? The kind where we're together, where we're family. Jake's voice cracked. That's worth more than some fancy school. Aldridge shifted tactics. Do you remember what your father said he wanted for you? Yeah, he said he wanted us safe, happy, together. Did he mention education? He said we should learn to read and write and figure numbers. Miss Hart taught us all that. But did he specifically say you should stay on the ranch, never leave? Jake hesitated. No. So he might have wanted more for you than ranch life, opportunities beyond what this territory offers. Pa wanted us with people who love us. That's Cole, not you, not some school full of strangers. Aldridge stepped back. No further questions. Judge Calhoun looked at Cole. Questions for the boy? No, Your Honor. I think Jake said it all. Lily was next. She was so small in the witness chair her feet didn't touch the ground. Mrs. Chen had to help her get settled. Aldridge crouched down to her level, gentle, non-threatening. Hello, Lily. I just want to chat for a minute. Is that okay? She nodded. Can you tell me about Cole? He's Cole. Her voice was barely audible. Is he nice to you? Yes. Does he take care of you? Yes. What about school? Would you like to go to a nice school with other girls your age? Lily's eyes filled with tears.
I want to stay with Cole. I know, sweetheart, but sometimes what we want isn't what's best. Sometimes grown-ups have to make hard choices. Pa said Cole would take care of us. He promised. Tears spilled over. Pa's promises were real. He didn't lie. No one's saying your father lied. You are. You're saying his promise doesn't count, that his will doesn't matter. Lily's voice rose to something close to a shout. But it does matter. Pa wrote it down. He signed it. He wanted Cole. Lily, calm down. I won't calm down. You're trying to take us away. You're trying to make us forget Pa and Cole and everything. She was sobbing now. I hate you. I hate all of you except Cole and Miss Hart. Judge Calhoun banged his gavel. That's enough. Someone get this child down. Mrs. Chen rushed forward, scooping Lily up. The little girl buried her face in the woman's shoulder, sobbing like her heart was breaking. The courtroom was silent, awkward. Nobody quite knew where to look. Finally, Judge Calhoun said, Mr. Aldridge, I think we're done with the children. Your Honor, I have closing arguments. I've heard enough arguments from everyone. The judge looked tired. This court will recess for 1 hour. I need to review the evidence and make a decision. We'll reconvene at 2 o'clock. He banged the gavel and disappeared into his chambers. Eliza found Cole outside, standing in the shade of the courthouse. His face was unreadable. That went badly, she said. Could have been worse. How? Building could have caught fire. Would have been a nice distraction. He looked at her. Lily breaking down like that. That hurt our case. Or helped it. Showed she cares. That this isn't just adults fighting over property. Or made her look unstable, emotional. Exactly the kind of child who needs structure and discipline. Cole lit a cigarette with shaking hands. I can't read it. Can't tell which way the judge is leaning. He seemed skeptical of Victor. He seemed skeptical of everyone. Cole took a long drag. 50-50 odds. Maybe worse. They stood in silence. Around them, people came and went. Normal day. Normal town. Everything continuing while their world hung in the balance. Cole? Lily's voice, small and scared. They turned. She stood with Mrs. Chen, eyes red from crying. I'm sorry I yelled. Did I ruin everything? Cole dropped the cigarette, crushed it under his boot, knelt down to her level. You didn't ruin anything, Lilybug. You told the truth. That's all anyone can ask. But I cried. I was loud. The judge looked mad. The judge has a hard job. He's not mad at you. What if he sends us away because I was bad? Then it won't be your fault. It'll be because the system's broken and adults are complicated. Cole pulled her into a hug. But whatever happens, it's not on you. Understand? She nodded against his chest. Jake appeared, looking defensive. I didn't cry. I know. You were strong up there. Didn't help though, did it? We're still going to lose. We don't know that yet. Yes, we do. Look at us. Look at Mr. Hale. Who's the judge going to choose? The rich man with the big house or the unemployed cowboy with nothing? Cole didn't answer because Jake was right, and they all knew it. 2 o'clock came too fast and too slow at the same time. They filed back into the courtroom. Judge Calhoun looked grim as he took his seat. I've reviewed the evidence and testimony. This is a difficult case with no perfect answer. He paused. Samuel Hart's will is valid. The witness issues raise questions but don't invalidate the document itself. However, a will is guidance, not law. The court must determine what serves the children's best interests. Eliza held her breath. Mr. Hale offers stability, resources, and educational opportunities. These are significant advantages. However, his plan to send the children away raises concerns. They've suffered loss. Separating them from familiar surroundings and people seems unnecessarily harsh. Victor's expression tightened. Mr. Maddox offers less in material terms, but more in emotional connection. The children clearly love and trust him. Their father clearly trusted him. That matters. However, without employment or stable housing, his ability to provide proper care is questionable. Cole's face was stone. This court appreciates both parties' intentions, but intentions aren't enough. Children need security, consistency, a path forward. Judge Calhoun looked directly at Cole. Mr. Maddox, if I grant you guardianship, how do you intend to support these children?
Cole stood. Honestly, Your Honor, I don't know. I'll find work. Any work. I'll build something from nothing if I have to, but I'll make it work because that's what Samuel trusted me to do. That's not a plan. That's hope. Sometimes hope's all you've got. The judge almost smiled. Almost. Mr. Hale, if I grant you custody, will you commit to keeping the children in this territory, near people they know? Victor stood smoothly. Your Honor, with respect, that defeats the purpose. These children need proper education. Answer the question. Will you keep them here? I suppose arrangements could be made, though it would be suboptimal. Suboptimal for who? You or them? Victor had no response. Judge Calhoun sat back, took a long breath. Here's my ruling. Guardianship is granted to Cole Maddox per Samuel Hart's expressed wishes. The courtroom erupted. Victor shot to his feet. Aldridge was already objecting. The children screamed with joy. However, the judge's voice cut through the chaos. This guardianship is conditional. Mr. Maddox, you have 6 months to establish stable employment and housing. The court will review your situation at that time. If you cannot provide adequately for these children, custody will revert to Mr.
Hale or another suitable guardian. The joy died. Eliza felt her stomach drop. 6 months isn't enough time, Cole said. Then you'd better work fast. Court is adjourned. The gavel fell. They'd won, sort of, temporarily, conditionally. It wasn't victory, it was a stay of execution. But looking at the children's faces, at Jake's fierce grin and Lily's tears of relief, Eliza thought maybe that was enough. They had 6 months. 6 months to build a life from nothing. 6 months to prove that love and promise could triumph over money and power. It was impossible. But then again, so was everything they'd done so far. Outside the courthouse, reality hit like a fist. Cole had guardianship. He also had no job, no home, and 6 months to prove he could provide for 2 children or lose them forever. The celebration lasted exactly as long as it took to walk from the courthouse steps to the street. What now? Jake asked. He was trying to sound brave, failing. Cole looked at the 3 of them, 2 children and a woman who'd sacrificed everything to help him. They were all staring at him like he had answers. He didn't. Now we figure it out, he said. Because what else was there to say? Mrs. Chen offered them her boarding house for another week. Free of charge, she said, though Cole knew she couldn't afford charity. He took it anyway because pride was a luxury he couldn't afford either. That first night, they sat around Mrs. Chen's kitchen table with paper and pencil, trying to solve an impossible equation. I need steady work, Cole said, something that pays enough for housing and food. The ranches won't hire you, Eliza said bluntly. Victor's already spread word. Anyone who employs you makes an enemy of him. So I looked beyond ranches. Construction. Mining. Something. Those jobs require you to travel. Live in camps. You can't take children to a mining camp. Then I find work here in town. Doing what? There's the blacksmith, the livery, the general store. All of them do business with Victor. Jake slammed his hand on the table. This is stupid. We won everything, and we still lost. We didn't lose, Cole said, though it felt like a lie. Then what do you call this? You can't work anywhere, we can't live anywhere, and in 6 months they'll take us anyway. Jake's voice cracked. We should have just run when I said. At least then we'd be together. Running's not living, Cole said. It's just postponing the inevitable. And this is better? Cole had no answer for that. Lily, who'd been quiet, spoke up. What about land? They all looked at her. Pa always said if you have land, you have a future. Could we get land? Land costs money, Lilybug. How much? Eliza had been doing calculations in her head. Homestead Act allows claims on federal land, free, if you can prove it up. Build a dwelling, cultivate crops, live there for 5 years. 5 years is longer than 6 months, Jake pointed out. But the judge said stable housing and employment. If Cole files a claim, starts building, that shows intent, shows a plan. Eliza was working through it as she spoke. It's not perfect, but it's something. I don't know anything about farming, Cole said. Neither did most homesteaders when they started. You learn. You adapt. She looked at him. Unless you have a better idea. He didn't. Where would we even file a claim, Jake asked. All the good land's already taken. Not all of it.
There's land north of here, past the river. Rough country, but available. Cole knew the area she meant. Hard ground, unreliable water. The kind of land nobody wanted because making it work would break you. But beggars couldn't be choosers. We'd need to see it first, make sure it's viable. So we go look, tomorrow. Eliza's jaw was set, determined. We don't have time to waste. They rode out at dawn, Cole, Eliza, and the children on borrowed horses. Mrs. Chen had packed food and given them directions to the land office. The federal land available for claim was exactly as bad as Cole expected. 20 miles from town, accessible by a road that barely deserved the name. The soil was rocky. The nearest water source was a creek that probably ran dry in summer. But there were trees, and the land rolled in a way that suggested it might hold water if you knew where to dig. And most importantly, it was available. "It's terrible," Jake said, looking around. "It's ours if we want it," Cole countered. "That counts for something." "What would we even do here? There's nothing." "We build something. House, barn, fences, whatever it takes." "That's crazy. You can't build a ranch from nothing in 6 months." "No, but I can build a home. Prove we're trying. Show the court we're serious." Cole dismounted, knelt down, picked up a handful of soil. It was poor quality, but not impossible. "Your pa started with less than this. He made it work." "Pa had help. He worked for Mr. Hale, got paid regular." "So we'll be smarter, work harder." Cole looked at Eliza. "What do you think?" She was studying the land with a critical eye. "It's going to be brutal. No water access means hauling or digging a well. No shelter means building fast. And we'd have to do all of it while still making money somehow. So it's impossible." "I didn't say that. I said brutal." She met his eyes. "But brutal and impossible aren't the same thing." "They're pretty close." "Close doesn't count." She smiled, tight but real. "We file the claim. We build. We figure out the rest as we go." Jake groaned. "You're both insane." "Probably," Cole said. "But insane's all we've got. You in or out?" Jake looked at Lily. Some silent sibling conversation happened. "In," Jake said finally. "But when this falls apart, I'm saying I told you so." "Deal." They filed the claim that afternoon. 160 acres of rough Texas land, officially theirs if they could prove it up. The land office clerk looked at them like they were crazy. He was probably right. The first week was nothing but work. Cole borrowed tools and started clearing space for a cabin. Eliza and the children hauled rocks, cleared brush, did everything they could with their limited strength. By nightfall, they were all exhausted. They slept in a tent, borrowed like everything else, and woke before dawn to start again. "This is impossible," Jake said on day 4. He was blistered, sunburned, and looked ready to quit. "Then we do the impossible," Cole said. He was in no better shape. "No other choice." "There's always a choice. We could give up." "We could. But we won't." "Why not?" "Because your pa didn't raise quitters. Neither did mine, for all his faults." Cole handed Jake a hammer. "Now get back to work." Money became the immediate problem. They had none. Cole picked up day work where he could, splitting wood, digging wells, anything that paid. It wasn't enough. Nowhere close. Eliza took in sewing and washing. It helped, but barely. The children foraged for food to supplement what little they could buy. They were surviving, not living, just surviving. "We need more income," Eliza said 2 weeks in. They were eating beans again, 3rd night in a row. "This isn't sustainable." "I'm working every hour I can find." "I know, but it's not enough. We need something that pays better, consistently." "Like what?" "Ranching's out. I'm not qualified for anything else." Eliza had been thinking about this. "What about teaching?" "Not me. I'm marked as trouble. But what if we started a school? Out here. For ranch families who can't get their kids to town regularly." "Who'd pay for that?" "Parents who want their children educated but can't afford boarding schools or tutors. There are dozens of ranches within 20 miles. Small operations, family run. They need teachers." Cole considered it. "I don't know how to teach." "I do. You know ranching, survival, practical skills. We teach together, cover everything kids need to know, reading, writing, arithmetic, plus how to actually survive out here."
That's actually not terrible. I have moments of competence. She smiled. We'd need to spread word, convince families we're legitimate, but if we get even 5 students at $1 a week each, that's $20 a month. Combined with your day work, it might be enough. Cole felt something that might have been hope. When do we start? Soon as we have walls and a roof. Can't teach in a tent. They pushed harder. The cabin went up in stages. Walls first, then a roof that leaked but mostly kept rain out. It wasn't pretty, it wasn't finished, but it was shelter. Eliza rode to nearby ranches, introducing herself and explaining their plan. Most people were skeptical. A few were intrigued. You really think you can teach ranch kids? One mother asked. Most of them are half wild. I've been teaching half wild kids for months, Eliza said. I'm getting better at it. She came back with 3 commitments. 3 families willing to pay $1 a week for their children's education. It wasn't much, but it was a start. The school opened in their half-finished cabin on a Monday morning. 5 students showed up, 3 from paying families plus Jake and Lily. They sat on rough benches Cole had built, wrote on slates Eliza had scrounged, and learned reading and arithmetic in the morning, ranch skills, and survival in the afternoon. It was chaos. The students ranged from 6 to 13 with wildly different skill levels. The cabin was drafty. The supplies were minimal, but they were learning, and families were paying, and slowly, impossibly, it was working. By the end of month 2, they had 8 students, $24 a month in tuition. Combined with Cole's day work and Eliza's sewing, they were making ends meet, barely, but meet nonetheless. The cabin grew. Cole added a second room, then a small barn. Nothing fancy, everything functional. The kind of building that said, "We're here to stay." Jake stopped complaining about the work, started taking pride in what they were building. He could frame a wall now, dig a proper post hole, calculate board feet for construction. Skills his father would have been proud of. Lily bloomed in the school environment. Turned out she was good with the younger children, patient and kind in ways that surprised everyone. She started helping Eliza teach, reading to the little ones, showing them their letters. "You're a natural teacher," Eliza told her one afternoon. "I like helping people learn," Lily said quietly. "Makes me feel like Pa's still here. He always helped people." Eliza felt her throat tighten. "He'd be so proud of you." "You think so?" "I know so." 3 months in, Victor Hale showed up unannounced. He rode up in his fine clothes on his expensive horse, surveying their rough cabin and rougher school with barely concealed contempt. "Mr. Maddox, Miss Hart, how rustic." "Victor," Cole's voice was flat. "What do you want?" "Just checking on my wards, making sure they're being cared for properly." His smile was sharp. "The judge did stipulate I could monitor the situation." "They're fine. You can go." "Can I? Because from where I'm standing, they're living in a shack, eating beans, doing hard labor, hardly the stable environment the court envisioned. They have a roof, food, education, love." Cole crossed his arms. "More than they'd have at your boarding school. They'd have proper beds, regular meals, actual teachers." "Miss Hart is an actual teacher. Better than most." Victor turned to Eliza. "Still here? I'd have thought you'd have given up by now, gone back to civilization." "This is civilization," Eliza said. "Just a different kind. This is poverty masquerading as principle. But by all means, keep pretending you're making a difference." He looked at the children who'd come out to watch. "Jake? Lily, how are you finding your new accommodations?" "They're fine," Jake said, defensive. "Just fine? Don't you miss regular meals? Comfortable beds? Not working yourselves to exhaustion every day?" "We're building something," Lily said. Her voice was small but steady. "Something that's ours. That's better than comfort." Victor's expression flickered. "You've trained them well, Maddox. Got them saying all the right things." "I didn't train them to say anything. They speak for themselves." "We'll see if the judge agrees. 3 months left. Plenty of time for this little experiment to collapse." Victor turned his horse. "I'll be back, regularly, documenting everything. Every failure, every hardship, every moment these children suffer because of your pride." He rode off without waiting for a response. Jake kicked at the dirt. "I hate him."
He's just doing what he thinks is right, Cole said, though the words tasted like ash. He thinks taking us away is right? He's wrong. Maybe, but he's also powerful, and he'll use every mistake we make against us. Then we don't make mistakes, Lily said simply. If only it were that easy. The next 3 months were a blur of work, teaching, building, and worry. Every day was a calculation. Did they have enough food? Enough money? Was the cabin improvement enough to show progress? Were the children thriving or just surviving? Victor visited twice more. Each time he found something to criticize. The cabin was too small. The children looked tired. The school was inadequate. He wasn't wrong about any of it, but he wasn't right either, because tired and thriving weren't mutually exclusive. Small and sufficient weren't opposites, and inadequate was a matter of perspective. The children were learning, not just books, but life. How to build, how to solve problems, how to work together, how to keep going when everything felt impossible. That had to count for something. 2 weeks before the 6-month review, disaster struck. The creek flooded after 3 days of hard rain. Not badly, but enough. Their supplies, stored in the incomplete barn, got soaked. A week's worth of food ruined, tools damaged, and worst of all, the school materials Eliza had painstakingly collected were destroyed. They salvaged what they could. It wasn't much. "This is it," Jake said, staring at the ruined books. "This is what Victor needs, proof we can't handle it." "We can handle it," Cole said, but his voice lacked conviction. "How? We lost everything. The court review is in 2 weeks, and we have nothing to show but a flooded barn and ruined supplies. We have the cabin, the school, students who are learning. Students whose parents might pull them out when they see we can't even keep our supplies dry." Cole didn't have an answer because Jake was right. This was bad, possibly catastrophic. Eliza sat in the mud, holding a ruined book. She looked defeated, broken. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "I should have stored these better, protected them." "This isn't your fault," Cole said. "Isn't it? I'm supposed to be the teacher, the organized one, and I failed. We all failed. Rain doesn't discriminate." They sat together in the wreckage of their progress, too tired to even be properly angry. Then Lily spoke up. "We rebuild." "With what?" Jake asked. "We don't have money for new supplies." "Then we make supplies. Pa used to say you don't need store-bought to learn, you need will." She stood up, small and determined. "We make new slates from smooth rocks. We make chalk from something, clay maybe. We write our own books if we have to." "That's crazy," Jake said. "So is everything we've done so far? Hasn't stopped us yet." Cole looked at this 8-year-old girl who'd lost everything and kept finding reasons to hope. "You're right. We rebuild. Better this time." Over the next week, they did exactly that. Made slates from river rocks. Created writing materials from clay and charcoal. The children who attended school helped, turning it into a project. Learning by doing. It wasn't the same as what they'd lost. But it was something. And something was always better than nothing. The day of the court review came too fast. Judge Calhoun arrived at their property with a clerk, Victor, and Aldridge in tow. His face gave nothing away as he surveyed the cabin, the school, the rough improvements they'd made. "Mr. Maddox, report on your progress." Cole had prepared for this. "We've built a 4-room cabin, established a working school with 10 paying students, cleared 15 acres and started a vegetable garden. The children have stable housing, regular meals, and daily education. Income? $40 a month from tuition, another $30 from my day work and Miss Hart's sewing, $70 total. Expenses? About $60 a month. Food, supplies, tools. We're saving the surplus." Judge Calhoun made notes. "Mr. Hale? Observations?" Victor stepped forward. "The cabin is rough. The school inadequate. The children work long hours at hard labor. Last week their barn flooded and they lost significant supplies. This is barely subsistence living, Your Honor." "The barn was a setback," Cole admitted, "but we've recovered, built better storage. The children are healthy and happy." "Are they?" Victor looked at Jake and Lily. "Children, tell the judge honestly, are you happy here?" It was a trap. Whatever they said would be picked apart. Jake looked at Cole, at Eliza, at their rough cabin and rougher life. Then he looked at the judge. I'm not always happy. Sometimes I'm tired and hungry and mad that we have to work so hard. Sometimes I miss how things were before Pa died. Victor's expression shifted to triumph. Jake kept talking. But I'm learning. Real things. Useful things. I can build a house now. Teach kids to read, work a garden. I couldn't do any of that before. And I'm doing it with people who love me, who fight for me, who don't give up even when everything goes wrong. He paused. So yeah, I'm happy. Not easy happy, hard happy, the kind that means something. The judge looked at Lily. And you, young lady? Lily's voice was quiet but clear. I want to stay. This is home. These are my people. This is where Pa wanted us to be. Judge Calhoun studied them for a long moment. Then he walked the property, examining everything. The cabin construction, the school setup, the garden, the storage improvements. Finally, he returned to where they all waited. 6 months ago, I gave Mr. Maddox an impossible task. Build a life from nothing, prove he could provide for 2 children with no resources and every obstacle. Cole's heart hammered. Looking at this property, at these children, at what's been accomplished, the judge shook his head. It's not perfect. It's rough and hard and probably harder than it should be. Your Honor, Victor started. I'm not finished. Judge Calhoun's voice was sharp. It's not perfect, but it's real. These children aren't being warehoused. They're being raised by people who clearly love them and work themselves to the bone to provide for them. He turned to Cole. Mr. Maddox, I'm making the guardianship permanent. No more reviews, no more conditions. These children are yours. The world stopped, restarted. Eliza gasped. The children whooped. Cole couldn't breathe. This is outrageous, Victor stepped forward. These children deserve better than poverty. These children deserve family, love, stability, all of which Mr. Maddox has provided. Judge Calhoun's expression hardened. Mr. Hale, I've watched you throughout this process. You fought for these children not because you love them, but because you don't like losing. That's not guardianship. That's ownership. I object strenuously to this decision. Object all you want. It's final. Unless you want to appeal to a higher court and waste everyone's time. The judge gathered his papers. This case is closed. Good luck, Mr. Maddox. You're going to need it. He left. Victor stood there, face red with fury. This isn't over, he said quietly. You may have won in court, but you'll fail on your own. This land will break you. You'll come crawling back, begging me to take the children. And when you do, I'll remind you that you had a chance at my generosity and spat on it. I won't fail, Cole said. Everyone fails eventually. It's just a matter of time. Victor rode off, taking Aldridge and his defeat with him. For a moment, nobody moved. Then Jake let out a whoop and tackled Cole. Lily joined in. They collapsed in a heap, laughing and crying and overwhelmed. Eliza stood apart, smiling through tears. Cole reached out a hand. Get over here, teacher. This is your victory too. She joined them, their small, impossible family. They'd won, against odds, against money, against every reasonable expectation. They'd actually won. The months that followed weren't easier. The work didn't stop. The money stayed tight. But the fear was gone. The sword hanging over their heads had been removed. The school grew. By the end of the year, they had 15 students. Families from 30 miles around sent their children to learn from the teacher and the cowboy who taught both books and survival. Other families started settling nearby, drawn by the school, by the community forming, by the idea that you could build something from nothing if you were stubborn enough. Within 2 years, they had neighbors, a small settlement growing around their original claim. Someone opened a general store. Someone else started a sawmill. A church went up, which Cole avoided but let the children attend if they wanted. Jake grew into his role as Cole's apprentice and Eliza's teaching assistant, tough and smart and surprisingly patient with younger kids. At 15, he was already being asked to help build cabins for new settlers. Lily became the town's informal librarian, maintaining a collection of books donated or traded. She still preferred silence to conversation, but her quiet presence was a comfort to everyone who knew her. And the school kept growing, 20 students, 25. They added a second teacher, a young man from Austin who was willing to work for minimal pay in exchange for room and board. Eliza taught mornings, managed the growing community in the afternoons. She'd never been a leader before. Turned out she was good at it. Fair, firm, practical. Cole worked the land, built buildings, and taught the older boys skills their fathers didn't have time to pass down. He wasn't good with words. Never would be. But his actions spoke loud enough.
3 years after this court decision, they had 50 students. The settlement had grown into a proper town. Someone suggested they needed an official name. They called it Hart's Landing, after Samuel, after the man whose faith in Cole had started everything. 5 years in, the town was thriving. 100 families, shops and trades, and a real economy. The school was now a proper 2-room building with 4 teachers, and people kept coming, not just to settle, but to stay. Because Hart's Landing had something other towns didn't. It had been built by people who understood loss, who knew what it meant to start over, who helped each other not out of obligation, but out of memory. Memory of being desperate and finding help. Memory of being broken and being given a chance to heal. The town's unofficial motto became "Second Chances Welcome." And they meant it. When a widow arrived with 3 children and nothing else, the community housed her, fed her, helped her start over. When a man showed up running from a bad past, they gave him work and didn't ask questions unless he wanted to share. When children arrived orphaned or abandoned, they found families. Not always traditional, not always perfect, but always willing. Hart's Landing became known across Texas as the place where broken people went to rebuild, where the lost could be found, where family was defined by choice, not blood. It wasn't paradise. People still fought, still failed, still struggled with all the normal human problems. But they struggled together, and that made all the difference. On the 5th anniversary of the court decision, the town threw a celebration. Music, food, dancing, everyone came. Cole stood on the edge of the festivities, watching. He wasn't much for parties. Never had been. Eliza found him there. She'd aged well, laugh lines around her eyes, confidence in her bearing, still wearing practical dresses that could survive ranch work. Hiding? She asked. Observing. Same thing. She stood beside him. Hard to believe it's been 5 years. Feels longer and shorter. He watched Jake dance with a girl from one of the newer families. Look at them. They're happy. They are. You did that. We did that. Don't sell yourself short. I'm not. I'm including myself in the we. She smiled. We make a good team. Yeah, we do. They stood in comfortable silence. Around them, their town celebrated, their school, their community, their impossible dream that had somehow become real. Cole? Eliza's voice was softer now. Can I ask you something? Sure. Why haven't you ever... we've been working together for 5 years, building this together, raising those children together. But we've never... She trailed off. Cole knew what she was asking. Had been asking himself the same thing. Didn't seem right, he said finally. You gave up everything to help me. Your job. Your reputation. Felt like it would look like payment, like I expected something in return for letting you stay. That's possibly the dumbest thing you've ever said. He looked at her. She was smiling. I stayed because I wanted to, not because I expected anything. And I've been waiting 5 years for you to figure out that maybe I stayed for more than just the children. Oh. Oh? That's all you've got? She laughed. Cole Maddox, for a smart man, you can be remarkably dense. Yeah, I'm getting that. So what are we going to do about it? He looked at her. Really looked. This woman who'd stood beside him through everything. Who'd fought when she could have walked away. Who'd helped build something impossible just because it was right. I guess, he said slowly, we could start by courting, proper-like. Courting, she grinned. How very traditional. I'm a traditional guy. You're a man who built a town from nothing, defied a judge, and raised 2 children while working 3 jobs. You're anything but traditional. Then what am I? You're Cole. That's enough. He kissed her then, in front of the whole town, in front of everyone they'd built this with. And when they broke apart,
There was cheering. Apparently everyone had been waiting for this too. Jake and Lily pushed through the crowd, grinning. "About time," Jake said. "Took you long enough," Lily added. "You two knew?" Cole asked. "Everyone knew. You're not subtle." Jake's grin widened. "So does this mean Miss Hart is going to be our mother for real?" Eliza looked at Cole. Cole looked at Eliza.
"I don't know," she said to the children. "What do you think?" "I think," Lily said seriously, "that she already is."
This just makes it official. And that, Cole thought, was probably the truest thing anyone had said all night. They married that fall. Simple ceremony in the church Cole usually avoided. The whole town came. Doc Harris performed the service, sober and proud and determined to do one thing right after so many things wrong. Jake and Lily stood up with them. Their family. Chosen. Earned. Real. In the years that followed, Hart's Landing kept growing. The school expanded again. They added more teachers, including several of their own former students. Jake eventually took over much of the building and construction, becoming the town's informal architect. He married at 22, had kids of his own, taught them the same lessons Cole had taught him. Lily ran the library and started a small publishing operation, printing books for frontier towns that couldn't get them otherwise. She never married. Said she was married to her books, but she fostered a dozen children over the years, gave them what she'd been given, a home, a chance, a choice. Cole and Eliza had children of their own, 3 biological, 7 adopted over the years. The house they built kept expanding to accommodate whoever needed shelter. The ranch grew too, not large, not wealthy, but sufficient. They ran cattle and horses, taught ranching to anyone who wanted to learn, and proved that you could build something sustainable on land everyone said was worthless. By the time Cole turned 50, Hart's Landing was on maps. A real town with a real reputation, known as the place where broken people could rebuild, where second chances were the rule, not the exception. People came from all over. Some stayed, some moved on, but everyone who passed through left different than they arrived, because Hart's Landing taught one lesson above all others. Family isn't about blood or law or circumstances. It's about showing up, fighting for each other, refusing to give up even when everything says you should. Cole and Eliza taught that lesson every day, in how they raised their children, in how they ran their school, in how they built their community. Not perfectly. They fought, made mistakes, failed more often than they succeeded, but they kept trying, kept showing up, kept choosing each other in their impossible family. And in the end, that was enough. More than enough. On Cole's 60th birthday, the town threw another celebration. Bigger this time. Hart's Landing had grown to 300 families. The school had 12 teachers. They'd built a hospital, a proper library, even a small theater. All of it traced back to that impossible decision, that conditional guardianship, that 6-month deadline that should have destroyed them. Cole stood at the edge of the celebration again. Older now, grayer, tired in ways that youth never understood. Eliza found him. Always did. She was gray too now. Laugh lines had become deep wrinkles, but her eyes still sparked with the same determination he'd first seen in that courthouse. "Thinking about Samuel?" she asked. Always. Wondering if he'd be proud, if this is what he imagined. This is better than he imagined, because he imagined his children being safe. You gave them a whole world. Cole watched their extended family. Biological children and adopted ones and fostered ones and the children of children. 3 generations now, all carrying forward the same lesson. That love builds more than biology. That choice matters more than circumstance. That showing up is half the battle and stubbornness is the other half. "You know what I think?" Eliza said softly. "I think Samuel knew exactly what he was doing. He saw who you were, saw who you could be, and he trusted you to figure out the rest." "I almost didn't, almost ran." "But you didn't, and that's what counts." They stood together, watching their impossible family celebrate an impossible success. And Cole thought about that first gunshot, that moment when Eliza had hit the dirt and he'd watched with cold eyes, already dismissing her as someone who wouldn't last. He'd been wrong about so many things. Wrong that education and survival were enemies. Wrong that love was the luxury. Wrong that broken people couldn't build something lasting. Wrong that a rough cowboy, a Boston teacher, and 2 grieving children couldn't become a family that would change an entire community. The best kind of wrong. The kind that led to something right. Cole? Eliza's hand found his. What are you thinking? He squeezed her fingers. Calloused hands that had built this together. I'm thinking we did good. We did. I'm thinking Samuel would be proud. He would be. And I'm thinking, Cole pulled her close, that I'm damn lucky you're too stubborn to give up on impossible things. Eliza laughed, that bright sound that still surprised him after all these years. Someone had to be. You certainly weren't going to do it. No, I wasn't. Good thing you showed up. Good thing you let me stay. They held each other while their families celebrated around them, while Hart's Landing thrived, while everything they'd built proved that sometimes, just sometimes, love and stubbornness could triumph over every reasonable obstacle. Not easily, not smoothly, not without cost, but triumph nonetheless. And really, what more could anyone ask for than that?